within this space, I suppose, I'll start by saying I'm the current vice president of ASCA. So thank you all for being here tonight. I also am a native Arkansan, did my undergraduate at Hendrix College, and followed up with my master's at Arkansas State University. Left for more school, decided more school wasn't for me, came back to Arkansas, where I now currently work at the Arkansas Natural Heritage Commission as a biologist and grants coordinator for the agency. And in my biologist roles, I get to do cool research, some of which I'll talk about today. And I'll be presenting on two topics, double feature tonight. So some of the results from our MoSI winter bird banding project and a report from my trip with Dr. Kannan and Pina and others to Costa Rica this last December for fun. So I think in my original blurb, I said I was going to do Costa Rica first and then MoSI. We're going to do MoSI first, get the work out of the way, and then do the fun for last. So I'm going to go ahead and share this. Close Audubon. Close that. Nope. All right. Can everyone see that all right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Great. If you see me looking over here, I have a second screen pulled up for some cameras over there now. So, all right. So yeah, as I mentioned, I'll be doing a bit of a double feature tonight. So I thought I'd start with some cool pictures of double birds from each of these experiences. So the time we caught a ruby-crowned and a golden-crowned kinglet together at MoSI, and two blue-gray tanagers in Costa Rica. Just a little fun to start. So like I said, we'll be starting with the MoSI project. So what is MoSI? You're going to hear me using that acronym tonight. So MoSI stands for El Monitoreo de Sobrevivencia Invernal, which is in Spanish, obviously translates in English to monitoring winter survival. And this is a project that is generally overseen by the Institute for Bird Populations, also known as IBP. And IBP's objective with this project is to understand population trends and sources of decline for neotropical migratory bird species by studying the factors that affect their overwinter survival. And that's throughout the wintering range of neotropical migrant birds. And you may be thinking, well, what am I doing a neotropical migrant bird study in Arkansas in the winter? This includes species that have portions of their winter range that go down to the tropics. So song sparrows, some of them winter as far south as Mexico, American robins, kinglets, those kinds of species, MoSI and IBP are still interested in getting data on. So even though we're looking at northern populations of those species, we're still providing great data towards the overall trends for that species. And to do this, IBP enlists volunteer banding stations, researchers from all over, and they work throughout the southern US, so kind of the southeast across Oklahoma and Southern California, throughout Latin America. Their map isn't super updated, but on their website, they said they've had over 250 contributing stations across 22 countries since the project started in 2002. So you can see, again, the map's not super up to date because our little station here in the middle of Arkansas isn't on there, but you can see these stations have been spread all throughout Latin America and even in the southern US. So just to give you an idea of the scope of this project. And this survival and other data are collected and then analyzed through a standardized protocol, but in the field it follows a standardized bird banding protocol. So that's how we're getting at survival of individuals, by applying that band to them and then tracking them as we continue to recapture them on site. So from MoSI, our station is sited at the Little Rock Audubon Center, we're going to say LRAC. And MoSI, the protocol requires you to have a net density of about 1.3 nets per hectare. So we have about 10 nets that we operate across 7.5 hectares of the property. MoSI also asks that you do a minimum of 12 banding hours per month, which is ideally done in 2 or more consecutive days in which MoSI calls that a pulse. So you do one pulse per month from November through March. And that is a full MoSI season. So a total of 60 banding hours across 5 months. It gets complicated though in the winter, as you can imagine, with rain, snow, cold temperatures, wind. So we have to really pick and choose our days. Sometimes we don't do consecutive days. It just doesn't work out that way, that you have 2 nice days back to back in the winter. So we'll go out, we'll set up nets, and we check those nets every 30 minutes. And we bring the captured birds back to our banding station, where I'll walk you through kind of the protocol of what data we take. And we have these nets placed on site at the Audubon Center in a variety of habitats to sample the birds that may be using those different habitats. So here's a picture of our station at the Little Rock Audubon Center. So if you look over here at point A to the upper right, that's the center building, if you've ever been there. And then kind of up here on the hillside is where we have our different nets placed, and our station is sited right here in the middle. And we have 2 different loops, 1 through 5, and then 6 through 10 up the hill. And we're sampling this oak savanna restoration hillside that the center staff are working to restore, as well as forest edge, glade habitat back here with net 8, and forest interior kind of habitat here at net 7. So we're trying to hit a bunch of different habitats to thereby increase the types of species that we're sampling as well. So we catch a bird, we extract it from the net, we bring it back to the station for processing. And this is what that process looks like. So we apply a band to the leg, aluminum band with a 9-digit code on it. We take other data as well while we have the bird. Morphometric data, so things relating to shape and size, including wing chord, so the length of the wing, the mass of the bird. Sometimes we'll take tarsus. MoSI doesn't require it, but for some other banding projects, we'll do that. We blow on their upper breast to part the feathers and look at the fat score. So, these birds, if they're eating sufficiently, they may store fat under the skin. We also look at reproductive status, which usually isn't going to be present in our winter birds, but we check, during that March pulse, we might have some of our resident birds starting to breed. I will say too, although IBP and MoSI prefers and is really interested in migratory birds, they want you to band, all the birds that you catch. So even our resident species like cardinals and mockingbirds, they're happy for us to collect that data. They just are focusing their analysis on the migratory species. So we'll also look at molt status, which feathers have molted, and the patterns of the feathers, because all of that's really helpful in determining age. And then we can look at feathers and other characteristics and sometimes determine the sex of the bird, whether it's a male or female bird. These are kind of old pictures from last spring and summer, but this is what taking wing chord looks like. And I mentioned blowing to part the feathers on the upper part of the breast to expose the fat. So this is a gray catbird we caught last spring at the Audubon Center. And this kind of orange tissue up where the feathers are parted, that's fat. Above this kind of deep red tissue, that's its muscle. So we have a scale, a numerical scale to estimate how much fat birds have. Once the data are taken and the band's been placed on the bird, we let them go and do their thing. Of course, we're hopeful that we'll recapture them at a later date, because that's what is really helpful data for this project. We want to see who survives, day to day across our days that we're doing our pulse, as well as month to month, and eventually year to year. Hopefully we'll get some birds next year that we banded this year. That will be really valuable data. So that's kind of the process and how MoSI works. So now I'm going to share some of our results from this season, which wrapped about 2 weeks ago, actually. So from November to March this past year, so November 2024 to March 2025, we had 233 encounters. So an encounter is a capture of a bird, even if it's the same individual. So essentially we captured a bird 233 times. This includes some of the birds that we did recapture, as well as new birds, as well as some birds that we had to let go unbanded. And I'll talk more about those. So in these totals, we had 172 new bands deployed on birds. So those were birds that received a band the first time that they did, and they'll only receive one band. But of this 233, 44 of those encounters were recaptures. So individuals that were captured at least once again after their initial banding. And then we had about 17 birds that we had to release unbanded for various reasons. Most of that was, as you'll see here in a second, our first couple of days of banding were incredibly busy, and we just did not have time to safely process everyone. So we'd rather let them go and hope that we catch them later than hold them too long and stress them out more than needed. So across the months, as I kind of already alluded, in November 1st, in 2 days, we caught 110 birds. December, that data looks all right, but as you'll see in a second, or maybe I didn't show, our first day in December, we caught 54 birds. Second day in December, we caught 3. The second day was very windy, so it kind of kept the birds down, and the nets blow in the wind, and they can see them super easy, so they kind of avoid it. January and February got super cold, so numbers really slowed down. I think there's lots of explanations for that. Winter's hard on the birds, so there probably was some mortality at the site. We lost, numbers of birds actually at the site. Plus, we banded right after both snow events in January and February. So I'm sure that was hard on the birds, but it also probably pushed some birds off site. Maybe they decided to go further south for the, hardest part of the winter. Hard telling, not knowing, but January and February were pretty slow. And then finally picked back up a little bit in March with 37 encounters. And I guess I should have thrown this up there. This was a day in November. On that string line kind of in front of the table there, you can see those colorful fabric bags kind of hanging by a clothespin on the line. Each one of those bags has a bird in it. So when we get them out of the net, we place them in our fancy bird bags, which is just a breathable fabric bag. Kind of gives them a less stressful place to hang out until we're ready to take them out and put the band on. So we bring them back to the station, set up here, clip them to the line. They sit in the bag safely until they're ready to be banded. So that's a very full line with a lot of birds ready to go. So those were some very busy days. So again, here's our net setup, and I kind of want to walk through number of birds that each net produced. So some of our most productive nets were net 1 over here, kind of by the neighborhood. Well, net 1 was the most productive with 38 encounters. And then nets 2 and 3 had 32 encounters each. And then up over here along the forest edge, nets 9 and 10 each had 31. So those are always our busy nets. Me and the volunteers definitely enjoyed walking up to those nets to be like, oh, what are we going to get here? And then, as you'll see, we had some less productive nets. Net 6 headed up the hill here, only had 11. Net 7, there's not a lot of low shrubs there in the forest, so birds didn't really come down low to the nets there. And then net 8, way back here on our glade, it only caught us 2 birds the whole season, one of which we couldn't band. It was a chickadee that had a really nasty scaly mites infection on its legs, and when their legs are like that, it's not safe to put a band on them, so we just had to let him go. That was the first bird we caught in the net too. It was like, yay, net 8, and then we had to let the bird go. So continuing, we captured, of all those encounters, we captured 26 different species, so a pretty good diversity, and it was really cool to get to learn some of these winter birds that most of my banding has either been during migration or during the summer, so it was really cool to get to work with a new suite of species. So some of our most encountered species, number 1 was the dark-eyed junco. Here's a really beautiful older male junco. We caught a couple of those. Yeah, I don't think I meant to put numbers on there, but I think we caught 30 or 29 juncos the whole season. And then second most encountered was field sparrows. I believe there were about 27, 26 of them. And this is a really cool individual that we caught. As you can see, it's leucistic. It has that kind of white collar. That's not what field sparrows look like normally. But this was a really handsome little bird with the white, pigment going on. It was really cool. And then next was American robin. Oh man, you would walk up to a net and there would be tons of robins in it because they flock around together during the winter. This is really handsome adult male robin. I think it was an adult, but You can tell by how dark the head is and how kind of brick red the breast feathers are. So those were our top three birds that we caught the most individuals of. Of the newly banded birds, just to break some of the numbers down for you even more, we caught 45 males, 35 females, and then 92 individuals of unknown sex. During the winter, it's really difficult to determine the sex of a lot of birds because they don't have those reproductive characteristics. So like with the junco and the robin, we could usually make a guess based off plumage colors. So like the dark of the junco and the dark head of the robin suggests male. But like for our field sparrows, every time we caught one, it was just an unknown sex. You would have to wait until summer when they're breeding to be able to tell male from female because males and females look the same. We also caught 91 younger birds, 57 older birds, and then 24 birds of unknown age. And those plumage characteristics can be really subtle. So sometimes the best you can do is, I don't know the age. I tried, but I couldn't tell. But you can see we definitely caught more younger birds by like 1.5 times. And that may suggest lower quality habitat available. So the older, more experienced birds tend to select higher quality habitat and tend to push younger birds out of that space to, keep those resources for themselves. It'll be interesting to see how these age and sex demographics change as habitat management continues at the Audubon Center. So, as they remove invasive species, conduct prescribed burns to improve the, habitat on that hillside, it'll be interesting to see if, maybe we start getting more older birds in that habitat. We'll see. That's why we got to do this for a while to find out how it ends up looking. So I kind of showed you our top birds. I'll walk through some other really cool captures. You didn't know you were going to have a sparrow quiz tonight, but here we go. Going from left to right on my screen, we have chipping sparrow. We caught a handful of those. Our one and only swamp sparrow, hunkering down a little funky in the hand, but he was all right. Beautiful white-throated sparrow. We caught, tons of those. They were probably our 4th or 5th most captured bird. And then lots of song sparrows too. White-throated song and field and juncos were all over the site for sparrows. Some of our other cool captures, some bigger birds. We caught one yellow-bellied sapsucker, and it's a male. You can tell by the red on the top of the head and the red on the throat. It's also a juvenile, and you can kind of tell by this kind of mottled yellow wash going on the back. Those are juvenile feathers. It hasn't fully gotten rid of those to kind of have that nice adult look. So this was a cool capture. Blue jay, we caught a couple new blue jays, but we also recaptured a blue jay that we had banded last fall as part of our fall migration banding. Just a blue jay that was on site, and he was still hanging around later. And then a handful of brown thrashers throughout the season, especially kind of at the end in March. They were really active. We actually did bird banding today for some spring migration stuff, and tons of brown thrashers still moving around and active on site. So really cool birds. We also caught their cousin, a handful of northern mockingbirds. Those were always really neat too. Then we caught smaller birds. So we ran the gamut from robins and blue jays and thrashers to brown creepers. And you saw the kinglet pictures at the beginning. Kinglet's definitely the smallest bird we caught during the winter. Ruby crown kinglets weighing anywhere from, golden crowns are smaller. Golden crowns weighing anywhere from 5.5 to 8 grams. So that's like a nickel and a half if you're a big golden crown kinglet. But we caught a handful of brown creepers, another really tiny bird, and awesome to see in the hand. And then we waited till the end of March to do our final pulse because I was so hopeful that we would catch some spring migrants if we waited till March, some of the early warblers and things that come back. And luckily I was right, we did. At the end of March, we caught beautiful male northern parula, 2 male blue-gray gnatcatchers, and this male black and white warbler. So we heard them, and these were all on the very last day. We heard them the day before, and then we kept saying, oh, we're going to manifest it. And we were like, going to be a Parula next, and going to be this. And then sure enough, they showed up, and it was really cool to get those birds kind of to celebrate the end of the season. So I'll hit on some cool recapture stories. So this is a story about a resilient ruby-crowned kinglet. So this guy was originally banded, and these are his original banding pictures on the 14th of January. So it was right after that January snowstorm. As you can see in the background, there's still snow packed on the ground. The air temperatures were fine to be outside and safely conduct bird banding. So we got out there and did it. It was an older male, and you can see in this picture on the right, those little red feathers. Sometimes you have to take your finger and like rub over the top of their head to be able to tell if there's red in there or not, but those red feathers indicate that it's a male. And some of the other characteristics indicate that he was older. So we caught him over here, middle, bottom, net one, kind of zoomed in on our nets to show you kind of how he moved throughout the property. Then we recaptured him in February, a month later, and after a second round of snow. So he survived the January snowstorm, we caught him. Then he survived the February snowstorm, we caught him again. This time he was over in net 3 in the top right corner. And then we recaptured him again in March, our second to last day, back in net 1. So he kind of moved, he was sticking on this side of the property. And it was just cool that he was able to survive all that teeny tiny bird, and we caught him, back to back those 3 months. Seemed like he spent a good portion of his winter hanging out on site. I don't know when he got there. I don't know if he was there in November or December, but he was definitely seemed to be hanging around January through March. So it'll be cool to see if he comes back to us next year. And I'll share a story about our one and only recaptured yellow-rumped warbler, because I thought it was really cool. So we originally captured this bird during our fall banding efforts last October. So this was before MoSI even started. It was the first yellow-rumped of the season. We only caught one in the fall. We caught more during MoSI throughout the season, but this was our one during fall banding. And we were like, oh, yellow rumps are back. Yay, awesome. We caught her. The plumage and everything told us it was an older female. We caught her on October 16th, banded her, let her go. On the very last day, March 25th of MoSI, very last day of MoSI, March 25th, we recaptured her in net 1, so that one where the kinglet kept showing up. And that was just really cool that she was still hanging around. Perhaps she overwintered on the site. Maybe she stayed high in the trees or avoided our nets all winter. Or what I think might be more cool, but I have no way of answering, perhaps she was passing through in the fall. We caught her. She wintered somewhere further south, and then she was passing through in March, starting to migrate north a little bit, and we caught her again. And perhaps the Audubon Center is just on her path of migration somehow. Again, I don't know. It seems more likely that she probably wintered around the site, but we have no way of knowing. But that was our one yellow-rumped warbler that we recaptured. We banded probably 15 of them, but none of the ones we banded during MoSI we recaptured. It was this one we banded in the fall. So that was really cool. So some final thoughts, and to wrap up this portion of it, there were a lot of new challenges with this. So this was my first time leading a bird banding effort like this. I learned a lot as a leader, and getting to learn this new program and this new method was really cool. And getting to help folks along the way and have them help me along the way was great as well. This was the first time, like I said, doing a winter project, and lots of winter challenges with that, including dealing with wind and rain and snow and temperatures. It's like I would be paranoid checking the weather, like, do I think we can go out today? Is it going to be warm enough? Is it not going to rain? And it was my first time banding with snow on the ground. If you've seen it in a couple pictures, here's a picture of one of our mist nets with the snowpack on the ground. Like I said, made for an interesting challenge. I also mentioned that it was my first time learning about a lot of these winter birds. So getting to learn new molt patterns and feathers on these birds was a fun challenge. I really like maybe obsessing over those things and thinking about it, because it is difficult to look at a bird wing and tell how old the bird is. So like I said, made for a fun challenge. So moving forward, the IBP would like you to run your MoSI station for at least 5 years. 10 or more is preferred because they want that long-term data. You can't understand population trends at a large scale if you don't, see what the annual survival of these birds is looking like. So they want you to continue for at least 5 years to be able to provide truly meaningful data to them. So our plan is to keep going. We will set up shop again next November and see how it goes. Keep going as long as we can. So I'll just end this portion of the talk with a big thank you to all the volunteers who helped and made this possible. We had 17 volunteers, some of my coworkers from Natural Heritage, Audubon Delta staff, Hendricks College, Maureen McClung and her students, Rebecca Peak from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Game and Fish Commission volunteers, and well as community volunteers who, spent a lot of time, some early mornings when it wasn't super cold or some late days when it was, coming out to help set up nets and ban birds and collect these, really important data. So this is just a portion of the crew that helped do that and couldn't have done it without them. So I'm very proud of them all and very thankful to them all for it. So that's all I have for that. I think I'll just keep rolling if you want to hold questions till the end. But yeah, now we can move into, that was work. Now let's move into fun. Although that was really fun work. I really enjoyed doing that. I'm going to talk about my trip to Costa Rica this last December and why you too should go on a trip with Kannan wherever, but Costa Rica's cool. So as I mentioned, this was a fundraising trip for the Arkansas Audubon Society Trust, organized and led by Dr. Kannan. We went on this trip in December 2024 from the 14th through the 21st. I literally did MoSI on the 9th and the 12th, and the 13th to pack, and left for Costa Rica on the 14th, and had my cousin's wedding the weekend before all that. So December was a blur, but a good blur for this week. Including myself, it was 18 nature enthusiasts, plus Kannan. Most of us were from Arkansas, but we had friends from all over come to be part of this trip. And in Costa Rica, we were led by Costa Rica Sun Tours, our main guide for the trip. Brilliant man. Kannan will always, everyone who's been on a trip with him will speak so highly of him, and Kannan will always brag on him. But Esteban, pictured here at the left, Costa Rica has about 900 bird species, and Esteban has seen about or over 800 of those. So, and he knows everything from birds to plants to geography. Like, he was just a walking encyclopedia on everything Costa Rica, and just a great guy. I'll also shout out to our driver, Roy, who's here on the right, and he deserves a massive shout out for getting our little charter bus all around Costa Rica, some really steep valleys and winding roads down mountainsides, and he took us some places I did not know a bus could go. So we were really blessed to have them get us through it. And then at some of our sites, we did have local guides as well, kind of lead us through their properties or keep up with us. And we went all over. So we flew into and out of San Jose here in the middle, part A. We continued up into the mountains, then back down to the Pacific coast, drove a long day up to this part of the coast, and then back up into the mountains here before leaving. And I'll kind of go through each part of this trip. So as I mentioned, day one, we flew into San Jose and got transferred to our first hotel, Hotel Bougainvillea, and we spent the afternoon getting to meet our fellow travelers, as well as birding in the garden behind the hotel. So this was a picture from my balcony. All the hotels were just like beautiful, felt very pampered the whole time we were there. But this one just had a massive garden out back. So after not a super long flight, I flew from Little Rock to Atlanta, so an hour and a half, and then Atlanta to San Jose was about 4 hours. Not bad at all. But I got there early enough to enjoy the afternoon in the garden and walk around and see some cool birds first thing. Then we had our first group dinner, did some introductions and met everybody before the real birding began on day two. Esteban joined us that morning and led a guided walk through the hotel gardens before breakfast. Every day we started birding at 6 a.m., breakfast at 7 a.m. So we definitely had priorities. And in the gardens, we got to see leafcutter ants do their thing. So you can see here in the video, them carrying their leaves and walking along in a line. Here, I'll play it again. And that was really cool. You know, you see these kinds of things in like nature documentaries, like every moment I was just like, wow, I'm living in a nature documentary. It's in the back of a hotel garden. It's like really cool. From there, we drove San Jose up the Pan American Highway into the mountains, and we stopped for the day at Paraíso Quetzal Lodge for bird watching and lunch. We started by walking down the road to the lodge. You can kind of see here this montane habitat with much shorter trees than lower down in the valleys. And we get to see birds like city-capped chlorospingus, many others along that way. I'll also say, as I'm going through the photos, if it doesn't have a name next to it, these are my photos, but sometimes I had borrowed from folks on our trip. So you'll see them with photo credits if it's not my photo. So birds. And then when we got to the lodge, there was a little platform out over kind of this area where the hummingbird feeders were hanging, and we got to watch about 4 or 5 different species of hummingbird buzz and zip in and out, you know, dozens of hummingbirds. Most common were these guys here, fiery-throated hummingbird, and just this view, you know, over this valley, was so gorgeous. My favorite bird, maybe in the whole trip, but definitely at this stop, was long-tailed silky flycatcher, just an incredibly handsome bird. And we got, you know, this bird was maybe a meter from us, hanging in this tree, kind of eating on these berries. It was really cool to get to see that bird up close like that. After lunch, we hiked up the hill of the lodge into kind of their nature preserve area back, and we were there for what the lodge was named after. We were going to look for quetzals, resplendent quetzals. And here's everybody kind of standing on the edge of this trail, looking down, hoping to see, and we sure did. Yay, quetzals! We got to see, I believe it was 3 females and 2 males, kind of move around in a patch of avocado trees. And they were foraging on the fruits, the unripe fruits of the avocado. And we literally watched one of these males like pick up a whole unripe avocado and like swallow it down. It was really special. And of course, you know, those long, streaming, beautiful tails, and definitely a goal bird for so many people and very special. And getting to see 5 at once, it was really cool. Then we went down to some other bird feeders on site. Got to see some other really cool birds. This is large-footed brush finch, I believe. Talamanca hummingbirds were all over. If you've been out west, they look very similar. They were actually split from Rivoli's hummingbird, which used to be magnificent hummingbird when both species were together, but now it's Talamanca in Costa Rica and Rivoli's hummingbird up here. Once we were done birding, we continued our drive, and this was the steep kind of switch back down the mountain I was talking about that really got us down. And we drove down into the Savegre Valley, down our steep curvy roads, where we spent the night. Next morning, again, 6 a.m., up and at it, birding. We went around the hotel garden, or the hotel grounds, to bird. This one might be my favorite bird of the trip. They were everywhere, but they were just so adorable. These are silver-throated tanagers. Just, wow, they're just so awesome. And getting to watch them up close, to come to the feeders. There were tons of birds at these feeders. Lots of different tanagers, including flame-colored, blue-gray, these guys, rose-breasted grosbeaks. So we got to see some of our birds, our breeding birds, on their winter grounds. So we got rose-breasted grosbeak, tons and tons and tons of Tennessee warblers. Summer tanagers were down there. It was really, Baltimore Orioles were everywhere. It was really great to get to see all those. And then after breakfast, we hopped into these really souped up like UTVs, and they drove us up the mountain into the hotel's nature preserve. And there we spent the morning walking down the hill. So they drove us up, they did the hard part, and we walked back down that path, down to the hotel. And we birded along the way and got to see a lot of really cool species. like collared redstart. They were moving really quick, so I don't think anyone got a super great photo of them. But yeah, so many cool birds, and you can see these really amazing, like hundreds of years old rainforest trees that were on that hillside that we got to enjoy. Really beautiful rainforest. After lunch, we continued down the Sevegre Valley and walked down the road from our hotel to follow the river that was kind of along it. And we had a couple goldbirds we were looking for here in this kind of rushing water. One is a torrent tyrant. We got to see them. They're a small black and white flycatcher that hangs out in these fast-moving riparian zones. And then we were looking for American dippers. They do continue like all the way down into the mountains of Costa Rica. But despite our best efforts, we did not ever get to see a dipper in Costa Rica, but that's okay. Lots of other great birds. Then we spent the afternoon birding in Batsu Gardens, tons of birds there, including a black guan that flew like right over and really close, and we got to go see it. And then just down the hill from here is where we had dinner. And this is all looking down into the Sevegre Valley. So after breakfast, we left the hotel in Sevegre, went back up the windy road, a bit down Pan American Highway. We made our first stop at a cafe where we enjoyed some agua frescas and smoothies and some birding. Of course, it's everything. Every stop was birding. Tons of hummingbird feeders and fruit feeders at this site. Snowy-bellied hummingbird was a goal of mine, and probably my favorite from this little cafe stop that we made. Also red-headed barbets, tons of tanagers, and yeah, gray-cowled wood rail. We got to see lots of really great birds just in a little hour stop to as a pit stop on our drive that day. And this is, we were driving from the mountains through and then back down to the coast. That's how we spent most of the morning. And just driving, people would keep their eyes peeled and get to see amazing birds from the bus. So we got roadside hawks, which their name implies roadside, but toucans from the bus. If you ever like tried to do birding while you're driving, just imagine like, oh, toucans. That's just a bird I see on the side of the road. But one we may have caused a little traffic jam over. We definitely pulled over to get to look at the king vultures that were hanging out along the side of the road of this pasture. There was a big group of black vultures. I think they were all eating on a cow carcass, but there were like 2 or 3 king vultures hanging out with them. And so we got to see them do that, which was a really cool, really good bird to get to see. Then we stopped for lunch in this town called Sierpe, where we got to watch scarlet macaws just stream overhead and scream. And they went into these almond trees and they would grab the almonds and then eat them, feed them up to their beaks, and that's what they're doing here. So we just got to watch the scarlet macaws eat almonds while we were eating our lunch. It was really neat. For the afternoon, we did a mangrove boat tour in the Sierpe River. So here's our group on the boat, our guide Esteban in the back, and then our local guides driving the boat. And so we kind of went up and down the river at various points looking for lots of different birds. And we got to see, I think this was probably our most productive list. We saw like over 50 species, different kinds of herons, like this bare-throated tiger heron, mangrove swallows. We got to see common patoos hanging out, like, branches in the trees. We saw 2 of them, so that was really special. And then it ended with some barn owls tucked under a bridge. They were kind of roosting under there for the day, so that was neat. Throughout this trip, it was much more than just birds. You already showed some of the ants and such, but we also at this point got to see basilisk lizards, Jesus Christ lizards, because they're the ones who run super fast and are able to run across the top of the water. So this was a male basilisk, and they were all over kind of the edge of the water there along the river. Then we drove to our next fancy hotel for the night and got to enjoy a drink and some dinner before bed. Pura Vida here at the bar, and you can see the Christmas decorations up. It was kind of interesting to be at a place where it was like 80, 90 degrees and then the Christmas decorations are up because we were, only a couple of days from Christmas, but definitely not how it feels in Arkansas around that time of year, usually. We continued the next day, driving up the coast, pretty much drove all day. We stopped for lunch and a couple other things. But one of our stops before lunch was at Krajcir National Park for a short hike. We did like a little loop trail, and we were kind of frantically looking through a couple different mixed flocks of tropical birds. They seem to be ant following. There was like a leader species that was looking, kind of guiding the rest of, where to go forage. So one species would come by, we'd get it, make sure everyone looks at it, and then the next one would come by, and the next one, and the next one. We got to see, maybe a dozen different species in these flocks moving through the forest. We also got to see this really cool strangler fig on this tree. So these vines kind of wrapped around the trunk of the tree. That's strangler fig, and it will choke out and kill that tree eventually. Wanted to highlight some of the cool plants too. Like I said, we saw everything. Definitely big time. Felt like a nature documentary. This is a gray-headed tanager, one of those birds that was kind of like first in the flock moving through. And then we kind of watched as, like I said, tons of other birds move through. This one is a white-whiskered puffbird we got to see on the way out. Very cool bird. I think we had two of them, and they just sat there for us before one of them kind of moved away, and then this one was still very cooperative. Super cool bird that everyone enjoyed seeing. Then we made a stop. This was right before lunch at the Tarcoles River Bridge to look for American crocodiles. Lo and behold, we found a couple, 3 of them. And here's one, definitely crocodile by the shape of the snout. And yeah, this one was huge. And it was really cool to get to see crocodiles. And there were tons of people stopped, park at the foot of the bridge, and then kind of walk out and look down to see the crocodiles. And they had all kinds of little tourist stands, selling little knickknacks and things, because it's apparently a huge tourist attraction for people to come and walk onto that bridge. We arrived at our hotel for the evening just a little bit before sunset, and that hotel is La Ensenada. And we got to there, and we immediately went to their salt ponds, because they bring in seawater and then evaporate it to get the salt to sell. And so we went to their salt ponds because they were great spots for shorebirds and wading birds. And so we, like we do here, we look through all the shorebirds to try to see who's different. We were doing that. There were like hundreds of peeps to look through, and then there was a big pile of whimbrel. We managed to pick out a couple other things in there too, some dowitchers and such. But yeah, folks looking through the spotting scope to get some of those birds. And then we woke up the next day, another pre-breakfast amazing birding walk. We walked kind of the trails of the property, and this was a pretty good list as well. One of my gold birds that I really wanted to see was double-striped thick-knee, a type of shorebird, and we got to see them here. We felt bad. We were like walking the trail, and these guys were on the trail, so we just kept getting closer and closer, and they'd run away a little bit, run away, and they eventually flew off. But that was really cool to get to see. After our walk and after breakfast, we hopped on a tractor ride. So the tractor kind of pulled this trailer with us and seated in the back, and we rode through the whole property and got to see even more amazing birds. And non-birds, this giant male iguana hanging out in a tree. And yeah, lots of cool birds. We got kingfishers, a laughing falcon, jacanas, so many cool things. And then we got back in the bus. This was a really long day. Drove up into the mountains to then walk around and have lunch at Tapir Valley to look for more birds. And this was kind of our first stop, I believe, on the Costa Rican or on the Caribbean side of the continental divide. Everything else that we had done so far had been on the Pacific side of the divide. So this was a chance to get to see some different birds. But of course, as the name of the site suggests, we were also there for tapirs, and we got to see this female. And it was always really funny. She would like never really turn her head to look at us. She was always kind of giving us this like side eye, but she would turn her snout to like sniff at us. So I think she was like sensing us with her snout. This day was when the tropical rain finally caught up to us. The drive up to Tapir Valley, it rained pretty hard on and off, and then it rained on and off the whole time we were walking around this site. It's the tropics, it's what it is. So we had our rain jackets and our boots and got along with it. Then we enjoyed lunch and in front of some fruit feeders. Got to enjoy the birds fighting over the fruits. So this great curacao was fighting with a yellow-throated toucan, and the toucan just kept like squawking at it, like rah, 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 rah. And I think the curacao just kind of like stood there like this and was like, what? And eventually another toucan came in and squawked at it too, and the curacao decided to leave and let the toucans have the bananas. So it was really fun to watch that and to get to see this like, you know, giant turkey-sized ornate bird come up to a feeder. So cool. And then our hike around the trails at Tapir Valley, a definite highlight here and of the whole trip was getting to see snowcap hummingbird, pictured here. So at first we saw a female. That was great. We were like, new species, snowcap, you know, what a lot of people wanted to see. We walked away, and then the guides were like, come back. And there's a male. So we all ran back, and we got to see the male snowcap. And you can see why they call it snowcap with the white forehead. And it's like a Merlot red colored body. And it was a really special moment. Some of you may know Ann Gordon. She was on the trip with us, and she got emotional getting to see that hummingbird. Definitely a gold bird for her, and very special for a lot of us. So, you know, teeny tiny, like as small as like a ruby-throated hummingbird. So just a very special moment for us to enjoy that bird.
Anne
We kept
actually
our
wept in joy, Kevin. You should tell them that Anne actually wept in joy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. She's 85 and out there doing it. So it was very cool. So as we finished our walk at Tapir Valley, we got in the bus again and drove to Arenal, where we stayed the night. The rains continued to wash us out, but that didn't stop us. We drove up to Arenal Observatory Lodge. I think this is like a mega hotspot in Costa Rica. I think there's been like 450, 500 species seen just at this like hotspot. We hiked around in the morning, and we were in and out of the rain, kind of hanging out in different parts of the lodge. And that didn't really stop the birds. Not the best quality photo, but I think this is a great example of birding in the tropics for a lot of reasons. You can see the rain kind of pouring down, but we have 5 different species of bird coming here to this fruit feeder. So we got a couple different tanagers, euphonia. That's the tropics, rain on and off, and you get this like colorful tree of Christmas ornaments, you know, of birds coming to a feeder. Super diversity. It's really cool. Again, didn't stop the birds. Here's a cool picture I got of a emerald tanager looking up in the rain. Very cute bird. And then once the birding was done, we spent the afternoon doing some more touristy things. We went to the grocery store so folks could buy coffee and chocolate. Very important when you're there in Costa Rica. I was so sad when my Costa Rican coffee ran out that I had to order some specifically. It was so good. And then we got to enjoy our last afternoon relaxing in the thermal hot springs at this one like resort hot spring type place. And it just was kind of like paradise. Felt well earned after, you know, hard week of birding. And some folks kept the birding going when found owls and other cool critters throughout the property. So we had our last dinner, one last sleep in Costa Rica. And on our last day, we woke up very, very early to start heading back to make sure people would get to the airport on time for their flights. We also made one stop at a final kind of birding cafe where we sat out. Again, the rain was pouring this morning, but there were tons of birds still coming to the feeder, especially in the downtime of the rain, these northern emerald toucanets were coming to the fruit feeders. We got to see a lot of really cool target hummingbirds there at the very end, black-bellied hummingbird, green thorntail, and some others, coppery-headed emerald. Yeah, we really cleaned up in our last little stop, getting to see some cool birds. Then we all said our goodbyes at the airport. Some of us played a round of Wingspan, the board game, on an iPad. If you ever played that, the birds never stopped before we got on our flights to go home. And I can just say, it was a really tough, long week of birding. It really wiped some of us out. So some of us even took a nap at the airport. Is that right, Kannan? So yeah. And man, when I was coming back, I hit the worst congestion in an airport I've ever seen in Atlanta. So do not try to come back to Atlanta around Christmas time. It was crazy. But in total on our trip, the group saw, last I checked our trip report, 323 species of bird, plus so many more, as I've shown you, iconic tropical animals, tapirs, iguanas, crocodiles, and more. We were also doing iNaturalist documents, taking pictures and uploading those to iNaturalist throughout the trip, and then reported over 300 species to iNaturalist. That includes, plants, insects, birds, etc. We got to enjoy so many delicious beverages, agua fresca like this, coffee, the coffee every morning, kinds of rice and bean dishes. All the food was so delicious and fresh. Made new friends both in Costa Rica and throughout the U.S. I think our group was pretty good. We had a great time together. And we were also able to raise $1,000 for the trust in doing that and having a good time. So good time all around, I think. And I'll just promote some other, trust fundraising trips. Kannan usually does 2 or 3 trips a year. You're going to Belize in May, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Belize
some
in
of the
May.
students going to Belize are also in the audience now.
Great. I hope to get to that one maybe next year, soon, sometime. Need to go to Belize. I know he's doing a Panama trip, and he's been advertising for another trip to Costa Rica next December. You still have a spot?
December 14th to 21st, same dates, but we are going to another part of Costa Rica, out of Liberia Airport. So I still have 2 seats left.
So yeah, definitely. This was my second trip with Kannan. I went to Trinidad and Tobago with him in 2018 and saw so many birds and had a lot of fun there too. So all the trips are really amazing. Definitely check them out, and you're doing it for a great cause. And yeah. So I'll end now our double feature with the, national and state birds of each of these places. So clay-colored thrush on the left is national bird of Costa Rica, and then of course our state bird, the mockingbird, that we got to capture for our MoSI project. So I'll go ahead and take any questions.
That's great, Kevin. If I may get started, my students are also here, about half the class is here, and we've been seeing a lot of yellow-rumped warblers. How do you tell male from female based on plumage in yellow-rumped warblers?
So it's easiest to do up close in the hand. The amount of white that they have on their 4th tail feather is very helpful.
Gosh.
Yeah. Young females have none. Older females have a small spot. Young males have a bigger white spot, and then older males have a more extensive streak of white. You can also look at the upper tail coverts, which are just the feathers that hang over the top of the tail. Males have a really broad, dark center to that, and kind of a blue wash around the edges. Females, it's a very narrow black strip and kind of brown washed. So there's some subtle differences, but yeah, you got to have them up close. Males, you can kind of see the black mask that they get during the breeding season. You can see a shadow of that, but yeah, it's tough.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kevin, with all those mist nets, somebody had to be making the rounds just about constantly if you had to check them every 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, so our loops takes about 10 minutes to walk the 1 through 5 and about 15 to walk the 6 through 10. So, and that's just walking, assuming you don't have any birds, because obviously if you have birds, it takes time to get them out. And yeah, I would usually be at the station banding the birds and taking the data. So luckily the volunteers, if I had a down moment, I'd go walk too. But yeah, some folks who I started training in the bird banding stuff last April, about this time last April, they got tons of extracting experience this winter, and now they are proficient bird extractors from the mist nets, and I'm very proud of how far they've come and how much they've learned. I see questions in the chat. So David, does older just mean more mature or like senior? So for aging birds, for a lot of passerine songbirds, the best we can get at is whether it is a hatchier bird, so a bird that was hatched that year, or an after hatchier bird, so a bird that was hatched at least the year before. And then in the spring, it becomes a second year and an after second year bird. Aging is complicated, but basically we can tell, are you young or are you old? Are you born with, or are you hatched within a year, or are you older than about a year? That's about as detailed as we can get. So older just means not recently hatched. And then Zach, which nets had the most captured and how many at the least? Here, I'll show that again. So, no, this one, yeah. So nets 1, 2, 3 over here to the right. We're very productive, and so we're 9 and 10. Nets kind of in the edge habitat, which these kind of are. They were at the edge of a tree line here and here, and there was a tree here. These were on the edge of the forest. Those tend to be really productive as birds kind of move out of the woods or between shrubs to go into those nets. Thought 6 was going to be more productive, but it wasn't one of our best nets. And then 7 and 8, 7 was in the woods, and 8 was kind of on the glade habitat with the open rocky habitat. There just weren't a lot of low shrubs near those nets. And so our mist nets only probably go up to like 8-10 feet tall. So a bird can very easily fly over that. And if we just don't have any low vegetation, it's less likely for the birds to come down to the net and get captured. So that's my bet as to why those were a little slower. And then the birds that we caught the most of, sparrows and stuff, they're just really thick and abundant out here in this grassland area. So I think that probably drove as well why these nets were so productive. Yes, lots of walking every day.
On all your your drives in Costa Rica, how many big holes did you see in the roads?
Not too many that I recall. Don't remember hitting many.
When Bill and I were there many years ago, we were on the Pan American Highway, and part of the hillside had washed away, and they were just zipping around the big holes.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they had some flooding there right before we went, but I don't think we ran into too much trouble. So that was good.
Yes.
And then Matt. Yeah.
Oh, let Matt go first.
Okay, I'm just reading Matt's question in the chat. Do you have a dream bird to band and why? Yeah, so many. What was I telling someone recently? Udo, who did I say I wanted to catch? I'm putting you on the spot now. Today we wanted to catch a blue-winged warbler. There was one singing at the Audubon Center, and I wanted it to go into our net, but I've held one before, I believe. Don't know if I banded it.
I can't help you with this. I don't know. I feel like
In
it's
March,
like the bird of the day versus like the bird of your life. So
I
I don't
know. Any Costa Rican bird. I'd love to do some banding in Costa Rica, and I originally was going to try to go do some banding in Costa Rica, and then that fell through for. It was a MoSI related thing, a workshop, and they didn't offer it anymore. And I said, well, I've got time and money, and I'm going to go to Costa Rica, so that's why I signed up for Kannan's trip. So, yeah, getting to band birds and have them in the hand is a really, really special experience, and we get to do science and really cool things with it, but it provides like a whole nother connection to birds. It's very special. So anyone who wants to come observe bird banding, just let me know.
know.
Yeah, Karen.
Sorry, I was
Yes,
gonna add
Udo.
real quick. I do feel like normally it's I don't know that they're necessarily the dream bird, but like mourning dove, they're everywhere, but they never get in the net. So that always gets mentioned as one that we want in the net because nobody has gotten to do that.
Yeah.
But and then if I could,
Cedar waxwing.
yeah. And I don't think, do we have a goldfinch this past year? I don't think we had one.
We had one.
And I just wanted to add kind of because I put it, if I can, real quick. I put the walking thing in the chat as like, if you're somebody that's extracting, it is a very physical thing. But I want to kind of add to that there are also tasks that folks can do that are not that physical. So there are jobs to do at the station. If you don't feel like that's a task you want to take on, believe me, I totally get it. I've had days where that was not possible for me recently. There are also things that you can help with at the station. So if you feel like that's something that's holding you back, there are other tasks that are certainly needed, and kind of shifts you can take in different things. I just want to add that to my lots of walking comment.
Absolutely. And yeah, we're a team. I try to check in with everybody as the day's going on, be like, you need a break, take a break. Because we can't safely handle and process the birds if we're not being safe to ourselves. So
Can I do a shout out to Kannan? This is Karen Holiday.
yeah.
Okay. Just my first trip with Kannan was probably 20 years ago, and it was just to Trinidad. He wasn't doing Tobago at the time. It was just Trinidad, and it was my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. And my mom loved birds. We grew up looking at birds because of mom. And I said, let's do Kannan's trip to Asa Wright. And she could do it physically, even though they were getting older, and had a wonderful time. It was just a fabulous trip. And then I met Shane Woolbright, Joe Woolbright's brother, and Art Evans, who I knew from high school. And they were starting to get big into international travel, birding. And so they said, hey, you like birds, you like to travel. Let's go to Sulawesi and Halmahera for my first international birding trip. And so ever since then, Shane, Art, and I have gone all over the world birding. And he and Shane, Art, and I just got back from Guyana, South America, a week and a half ago from another birding trip to see, and finally got my harpy eagle. So thank you, Kannan.
You're welcome, Karen. You should come again, Karen. I miss you in our trips.
I've got to do that. Yes, absolutely. So Kannan's been
My
doing this.
my weird favorite memory of Karen is I roomed her with someone called Jimmy Beasley, and she said, my husband is not going to like it. And I had to convince you that Jimmy was a female. She was one of my students.
I've forgotten that. So thank you, Kannan. I've had a wonderful adventure over the years traveling the world because of you.
You're welcome. Thank you all for your support. I often tell people that what my tours cost with air is what other tours cost without air. That's my spiel, recruiting spiel.
Yes, your trips are super cheap, well, very economic. I paid a lot more than that for trips.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Great presentation, Kevin. I like the dual MoSI and talk about your trip. Fun.
Yeah, I figured I could do both pretty quickly, so I was just like, let's double feature it. But I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, I put my email in the chat for folks who may want to reach out about anything, bird banding, whatever it may be. Yeah, shoot me an email and we'll see how we can get you involved.
Right. And for anybody who's considering going to Costa Rica, it is really a nice place to visit with lots of good birds, and I'm sure Kannan would show you a good time. So go.
Yeah, Cindy, I
go.
miss you too in our trips.
Well, yeah, but my knees could not take the walking. I haven't had surgery yet. I keep putting it off. So, yeah, you know, every time I went with you, I fell and broke a camera. So it got kind of expensive.
I know.
Yeah. So anyway, are there any more questions? Starting to get on. We can take one more if anyone's interested.
If my students want internships and things like that, get some bird banding experiences, they're here in the audience, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. It does get tough for students because we tend to mostly do it during the week. And I know that's a hike from Fort Smith, but whenever, hopefully sometimes we'll have weekend demos or things like that. So anytime.
Yeah, it's a good thing to a good thing to put in your resume, some bird banding experience.
Absolutely. And it's hard to come by in the Southeast and in Arkansas. So that's part of why I started all this, is to
Awesome.
and
I may give a shout out to the Arkansas Audubon Society Trust, because we gave you money to get started with bird banding, didn't we?
Yeah. Audubon Delta put up some money, and then I went and got a small grant from y'all to add to that and get the supplies we needed to do MoSI. So it's all very cyclical.
Awesome. Keep up the good work. Our money is being put to good use.
Okay, well, thank you all for coming. Kevin, thank you for excellent presentation. Thank you for introducing yourself, because I could not find that bio.